Well, it's such an honor to have you here. And I just wanted to ask, can you give a little bit of the history when you started letting people in? What year was that, and how many did you allow in at that time?
Oh yeah, this was in 1974. 1974, coinciding with the coronation of our fourth king. Presently, we are under the golden reign of fifth king. So it was in 1974, and that was the first time when we opened up to tourism. And we had a first group of tourists, about 274, and they were all from America.
Okay. And were you charging them at that time, like this $200 or $250 a day to?
Oh, yes, yes. From the day one, when Bhutan started to open up tourism, I think we started to prepare to open up for tourism maybe in 1972, 73. So it was only in 74 we had the first group. So before that, 2 years, I think our fourth king, he was at the helm, and he made this difficult decision that we need to take a different approach in tourism. I think by then, the rest of the world, they already started to have kind of open tourism, especially our neighboring countries. We could already see this. So when we started, it was kind of managed by government. So of course, the rate was by then, it was, I think, about $150, I think. Now it has reached to $250. So it started with $150. So from day one, they had to pay. Of course, then this included everything else. I think like accommodation, their meals, their transport, their guide. So it is all guided tour. So still now also Bhutan, a tourist cannot just wander on his own. He or she has to be with a registered licensed guide. So yes, to answer your question, yes, from day one, they had to pay this minimum daily package rate.
And just so that everyone understands, when I first heard about it, I thought that you had to pay $250 a day and then pay for food and accommodation. But you're saying that this $250 today, that includes your hotel, your guide, and your food. And if you want to upgrade, you can spend more than $250 a day, but it's saying that you have to guarantee that the minimum you spend per person is $250 for everything.
I think that is one of the biggest misunderstanding between the prospective tourists and our tariff here. So this $250 actually includes $65 is for sustainable development fee. You know, Bhutan is passionate about environment conservation. So we have, of this $250, $65 USD is for sustainable development fee, and that goes directly to the government, and which is being used for the environmental conservation and all this kind of climate change programs. The balance of 65, that of 250, this will take care of a tourist minimum of 3-star accommodation, minimum of 3-star meals, all meals, including teas and refreshment, except for alcoholic drinks, and also a dedicated chauffeured SUV, if it is an individual tourist, whether it's even if it's a one, he or she will get one individual car with a chauffeur and a licensed guide. Okay. So these are all actually inclusive. Of course, visa, we have a separate visa fee. Visa fee as of now is USD 40 per person, is a one time, whereas this 250 is per day. So it is a daily. So minimum, they have to have a minimum of 250, including SDF. And over and above, as you have rightly asked, yes, because we have some very high-end hotels also here. I mean, there, the minimum room rate itself goes more than 1,000. So therefore, minimum is 250, but above you can go, I mean, whatever you want.
Sky is the limit. Okay. So you pay a $40 visa fee and then $65 a day for a sustainable development fee that goes to the government, and everything else is applied to your cost. And then you can go up from there to, you have like a Six Senses hotel, and you have very high-end, beautiful hotels there. So you could, sky's the limit, really. And what's the average stay of your international guests? How long do they stay?
I think on the average, I think it is, I think you can say around 10 days on average.
That's a 10-day average. So, all right. that it paints a pretty good picture of what kind of visitor spend you're getting that way compared to many other countries. And you've actually succeeded with something that I think very few other destinations have, where you've created your own seasons. Your peak seasons are not in line with the rest of the world.
Is it? Okay.
So, I mean, your peak seasons are when the weather and the festivals are good. So if people, I think, I've always thought of it like this. People want to go on this trip of a lifetime when the weather is good, when it's the best time to be there, and not necessarily when they have their holiday time. So they will take time off to make sure they're in Bhutan for the best time to be in Bhutan. So you have these two peaks, and you go down in the summer when the rest of the world is on holiday.
Yes, that is very true. As of now, we have two seasons for the tourists. But now we want to brand ourselves as 12-month season. So we want to say, because this is giving us a bit of a problem now, because with season and off season. But when we started, I think, as you said, I think that was a good strategy. And also because of sudden, our infrastructures were not really in place. For instance, in summer months, it is off season, the monsoon season. And during that time, because the road conditions were not so good, so because of the rain, there could be rain, road blocks and all. And in the winter peaks, winter is also off season, and because of the snow, again the road blocks. But now things have changed. That is one. And the second, we feel that it would be good to have all 12 months as tourists. So in each season, it has its own charm actually. Of course, some of these festivals are actually in the present high seasons. Yes, you're right. But we want to make all 12 months.
Is it changed because you have better roads now, or better snow plows, or better vehicles? What has allowed you to open up in these seasons where you said before it was difficult because of road blockages?
Yes, it is mainly because of the improved infrastructure. Now we have a better road now, because I can tell you, maybe about 15-20 years ago, sometimes you can get stranded on a road because of the road block, landslide. Sometimes for days you can get stranded in the middle of nowhere. So now this is almost like a non-existence. Even if there's a roadblock, maybe in a couple of hours the road will be cleared. So it's mainly because of the improved infrastructure. But equally important is we feel that we should mainly to adjust to our carrying capacity. Now, if we limit to these 2 seasons, then we are very highly limiting the number of arrivals. So if we spread it over 12 months, maybe things will be evenly spread out, and we will be able to take care of this carrying capacity, the total number of arrivals.
I want to get into carrying capacity. I remember watching live 60 Minutes. What could it be, 20, 25 years ago, when they were talking about gross national happiness, when it aired in America. And I remember thinking that it was one of the first places that really viewed tourism kind of like a spice on the food. In what is in so many places have allowed this spice to become the main meal. You can't eat a meal that's all spice. And that's kind of where tourism fails. So to understand that you have a beautiful culture and way of life, and that tourism is just that little spice on top that can come to enjoy that, and that if you have too much of it, it will ruin the experience. And so you had a carrying capacity when you first opened. I remember, was it 5,000 people or was it more? What was your annual carrying capacity?
Oh, yes. I think then it must be around 5,000, yes. But
and
gradually
how did you arrive at that? How did you get to that number?
Based on our own reasoning and the services that is available here, based on our own assessment. So the number is basically determining, for instance, the number of the rooms that we had. Like in 1974, the number of the room for the tourists is you can count actually. So it is all based on the services that we have, because from day one, when we, I think I didn't mention about the tagline for our tourism policy is high value, low volume. This has been our tourism policy since 1974, and it's still very strong. And in fact, it's becoming stronger now. Now, this high value, low volume, one is the low volume basically take care of the carrying capacity. We don't want to bring tourists more than what we can host them. And the high value is basically, we want to consider that any guest that we want to come to Bhutan, we want to give them best of our experiences. So we want to give the best possible services. So therefore, we just don't want to, as you said, we want to take what we can handle actually.
Okay, so in the 70s, you had 5,000 people. And I heard a lot of people who went to Bhutan, when they showed up, they told me later, they thought that it was still a cap of 5,000 or very few people, that they were very lucky to get in. That even though you lifted that carrying capacity, even though you lifted that number many years later, that for a long time, many of your visitors just were under the assumption that there was still a cap of visitors. Is that correct? Is that your experience as well?
Yes, that's very true. Even today also, as we speak, I think there are some people, tourists, prospective tourists who have not been to Bhutan and who doesn't have the full information. They still feel, one is that they feel that as you have already raised earlier, this 250 is just for visa. That is one misconception. Other is, okay, the number cap is still there. Of course, we have a cap, but of course the number has now increased from 5,000 now. As of today, actually in 2019, we had around 65,000 in 2019.
Okay, so you went from 5,000 to 65,000.
Yes.
And you feel you can still offer that same high quality, unique experience, or are you starting to experience overcrowding in some spots?
We feel that with the better now improved infrastructure and also making it 12 months, we feel that maybe based on our carrying capacity, the number can still go high. Now, because of the COVID, I think this might change. The number is really going to go down. Even the destinations having to do anything, I think the overcrowding is going to take care on its own, maybe. So we are, because of this high value, low volume, we are also not really, while we would like to welcome everybody to our country, because we know that the tourists say that our country is a Shangri-La, so is the earth, paradise on the earth. So while we want everyone to come and enjoy this, but then like heaven, the door to heaven is open to everyone, but not everybody can go to heaven. So there is some, minimum things that you need to do while you are living. So therefore, even for Bhutan, well, it can be an earthly paradise, but and is open to everyone, but certain criteria needs to be there. So
everyone with $250 a day can get into heaven.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: have you been accused of being elitist in the sense? If there have been accusations, and then how do you respond when you get those kind of comments?
That was the point that I was trying to say, the comparison between heaven and Bhutan. Now, well, yes. So, in a way, I mean, people can critique that, but then it is for our country, because the high value, low volume, and this is basically driven within the framework of gross national happiness development philosophy. Now, when we talk about gross national happiness development philosophy, we are talking about mainly the sustainability, the holistic development, the balance between the material and non-material. So all these kinds of coming together. So therefore, if we are not make certain decisions, now this is the one decisions that the country has made, high value, low volume, in line with the development philosophy. So to maintain that kind of policy objectives, these are some things that we have to do. That means we want to kind of be open. That means there will be no minimum spending. Means then basically we are opening up. We are opening up for the mass tourism, and which is actually a case when we opened up in 1974. That was the time when His Majesty, the fourth king, made this decision. We cannot do this because our country is small, the limited resources. We cannot be able to take such a big number. So, and for the future generation, I recently watched your program. I mean, how COVID-19 will force destinations to think for a new, model. And I was already thinking, in fact, Bhutan has this model actually. Now, over-tourism is something that Bhutan has been trying to avoid with our policy. And going forward is this. Now, the whole world wants to look for this new model of basically saying now, what is the number that each destination can take in. And that model actually, I feel Bhutan has actually.
That's why I wanted to get in touch with you, because you're the original. You're like the godfather of the carrying capacity, high yield, low volume tourism. And when I wanted to say, so I spoke just recently with the head of Amsterdam tourism. and they're adopting. You have your gross national happiness model. They're calling it something else because of a book that came out of the UK. They're calling it the donut economy.
Donut.
Yeah, I think it's another way of saying gross national happiness, actually.
I see. Yeah.
And it's essentially saying that we are going to value other things besides tourist revenue. That's just a piece of the puzzle, that we have to also look at life quality and the environment and social issues and many other things. So I feel like you're kind of the Bhutan got like what could it be? Like a 40, 50 year head start on these other countries. And you are so far ahead that they're finally coming around and trying to look at things through your eyes. And as a industry leader on this, what advice do you have to places that are just trying to adopt kind of a gross national happiness type model? What have been the biggest challenges that you would give them, for advice to overcome?
Actually, I really wanted to acknowledge and appreciate your views, because in your this YouTube, you talked about the less is more. It fits very well with our policy. You said less is more, and then tourism is not linear. The income from the tourism. You tried to explain it so nice. While you are using in a different terminology, but basically we are talking the same thing. It is exactly what the high value, low volume tourism or the GNH philosophy that we're doing. So you have actually explained it very well. So as far as the people who wants to know more about this, I would highly recommend that they should listen to your YouTube. Again, I want to come back to this high value, low volume. Now, the essence of this policy is we want to give best experience to tourists. So tourists to Bhutan, any tourist, regardless of their nationalities. Now, as of today, because of these two kind of practice for international and regional, so because of that, they are not with the guides. So because of that, they are not getting the best of the services. So, and then we feel it is quite obvious sometimes when you are in the place here, you go to a tourist site monument wherein the international tourists, since their package is all included in their minimum daily package, for instance, even to the entry fees, to the monuments and all. So they go in a nice car, they are with the guide, whereas the other tourists who are on their own, they feel as if they are sidelined or neglected. So this is not good for a country in GNH, So we see two different types of treatment. So one is for ourselves, for our policy. The other one is we want to ensure that the tourists, regardless of their nationalities, we want to treat them same. So when we do this, maybe some certain sacrifices, maybe some people will lose out, definitely, because it cannot be, while we would like to have win-win for everyone, but then in certain cases, I think there will be some people who will be losing to achieve the broader and the higher objectives of the country.
Interesting. Okay, I've never been to Bhutan myself, but my perception of it is a bit of this Shangri-La where you have this beautiful culture and you really get immersed in this culture, in part because there are fewer tourists there, and that you see temples and beautiful nature and hiking and so forth. What happens if you have a stakeholder, a local entrepreneur who comes to you and says, we want to put up a race car track out here. We want to have go-kart racing or skydiving or crazy adventure tourist stuff. Do you allow it? Is it a free market, or does it come to a committee who decides if it's part of your brand or not?
There will be committee, there will be certain procedure. One is the framework of gross national happiness development philosophy. So any new projects or policies that comes in our country, it has to pass through this gross national happiness screening test. So basically, it has to pass this. So therefore, while we don't rule out any new initiatives or projects, but again, at the same time, it is not that anybody can come with any wild ideas and start implementing. So this is not possible. But at the same time, after going through this due process, things can be also there. We are, by the way, already talking about introducing some adventure tourism. Like for instance, as of now, we don't have like paragliding. Some of these adventure tourisms are not there, but we are already discussing, and these are going to come slowly.
Is there any other misconceptions or anything that you feel like you would like to explain about Bhutanese tourism?
The other thing is, now Bhutan so far has been branded as a culture and nature destination, and which is stands true even today also. Bhutan, because of our far-sighted, visionary environment policy gifted by our kings, we are the, as today, only the carbon negative country in the world, and so therefore nature is still very strong. We have biodiversity and all this kind of wildlife, and the culture part, I think, is also there. Now we want to brand, also go into this wellness and well-being, because that is also something already given there, but somehow we have not really been able to take advantage of this. And Bhutan, maybe in the 16th, 15th, 16th centuries, Bhutan was known in the region as the land of medicinal herbs. So our traditional medicine is very strong here. This is becoming even more relevant. Now everybody is concerned about one's personal well-being, health. So therefore we feel that Bhutan has this potential, and we want to brand, slowly develop, and make Bhutan as a wellness and well-being destination. Like it can touch upon spiritualism, meditation, yoga, traditional medicine. So all this will be put together, and this is something that we can really offer to the world.
It seems like a good fit. Let me ask about COVID. During this period now, I assume not so many tourists. How are you handling that from a financial perspective? Is the government bailing out the hotels and tour guides and providing them with some kind of income to survive?
Oh, yes, it's very true. Tourism has been the hardest hit because of this by COVID-19, and government has actually rolled out number of interventions. One is the Royal Relief Fund from His Majesty. We have a relief fund, and that relief funds will be eligible to any people who were made jobless because of COVID-19. They are being provided cash handouts, relief handouts for 3 months. Everyone who has lost the job because of COVID-19 gets this basic minimum cash to sustain their livelihood. That is one. The second is from the government side. We had fiscal and monetary measures like deferment of the EMIs, the monthly installments of the tourism or any other loans, not only tourism, all loans that have with the banks has been deferred by 3 months. Also, on top of that, the interest rates have been waived off, and these are making such a big difference to the citizen. And also from tourism side, specifically, we are also come up and started to roll out some employment support schemes. So we are trying to engage them in doing some activities which will contribute to us transformation of tourism. So presently, while we don't have any tourists and we have these people, so we are, for instance, just an example, we are cleaning up and maintaining our trek routes. We are trying to improve the infrastructure. But now, tourism in terms of foreign revenue income, is number one in our country. But we want to say that from day one, when we started tourism, while there's so much opportunity, if you want to open up, you can get this quick fortune from the tourism, but that has never been the case. So for Bhutanese, we have been always saying, from the government and from the Bhutanese people, we are always saying tourism is much beyond revenue and receipts. So we always want to make this compromise. We always want to say enough is enough. We don't want to exploit everything and get the maximum. So while there will be a huge impact on tourism because of this COVID-19, now certain measures that we might have to, while other countries might be taking, maybe we will not take, because for us, as I said, well, we will be losing, but then revenue and receipts in tourism is not the only thing. It goes much beyond that.
Interesting. I was just thinking, one of the possible carrying capacity tools you have at your disposal is that if everyone's going with a guided tour and you have good communication with your various guides, in theory, you would be able to coordinate with them so that only one group at a time is showing up at these temples, so that they have that magical experience where they don't all go there at the same time. Is that something that you are coordinating? And then are you also keeping a very close eye on carrying capacity at the various popular sites, and as you want to grow? Is this something you're measuring very closely?
I think that is very important, and we are actually working on this, like the overcrowding of the tourist sites and all.
Fantastic. Something we can have communication about that in the future if you like.
Oh,
I have a lot of I've been working a lot on that. So
oh, great.
But we can have, and please, those are all my questions. So and in the future, you have my contact info. You can use me as a resource if you have any questions. Or I speak at a lot of conferences, maybe 30 a year, and I look at their plans, and I get information from all the different leaders, and I see the same issues popping up in different places. So if you want to use me as a resource or whatever, you are very welcome. And it is such an honor to meet you, to meet you. And I really appreciate your time. I think I have plenty of great material for this interview. I want to do it in a similar, together with like Amsterdam, kind of like how you're handing off the torch to these followers who are kind of finally, 40 years later, starting to grasp this concept that you were leading the way in for so long. And I think tourism needs this kind of thinking more and more and more. And I was so happy when I saw that 60 Minutes piece, 25 years ago. And I think about it all the time. And in fact, I've gone to ITB Berlin and met with some of your colleagues in Bhutan tourism some time ago. And yours is a case study that's always in my mind. It's that your king was, bold enough to take that step in the 74.
Yes.
And yes. I think it was a visionary. And
very visionary, yes.
Understood tourism in a different way. So it's absolutely fantastic. I'm putting out videos every week. I've done now, I think 6 or 7, a lot with a similar theme. And I'm really happy to be able to include you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Ciao. Bye.
Ciao.